We are continuing in our study of the book of Job. We've looked at the first few chapters. We've gone through all the horrible things that God allowed Satan to do in Job's life, and how through all of that, neither did he sin or charge God foolishly. God gave that testimony of him that he was a good man, a perfect man, one that feareth God and eschewed evil a couple different times. And Satan put his hand on, with God's permission, on his body, giving him the boils as well as the other losses of the family and sustenance that he had. We saw in that his friends came to be with him to supposedly comfort him, but as we get into it, we have seen that these are not words of comfort that they're given. We saw that Job, in chapter 3, he opened his mouth for the first time in 7 days, and he talked about how he was hurting, how he was cursing the day that he was born. Chapter 4, the first friend spoke up, Eliphaz, the Temanite, basically questioned Job in chapter 4 and 5 and saying, hey, all these things are happening to you. Bad things don't happen for a reason. There must have been some type of sin that you have in your life. Why don't you just confess it and get right with God so that God can put his hand of blessing back on you? And of course, we know that Job had no sin in his life that was worthy of this punishment. It was a test that God was allowing Satan to do on him. I'm not saying that Job was perfect and never sinned. He'll admit that himself. But as we see in these next two chapters, Job's reply, but it is not worthy of the weight of the punishment. So God, he knows that God's hand is upon him, and he's questioning these things, and he's looking at a few different things. These next two chapters are Job's response to Eliphaz here. And as we cycle through these up until somewhere in chapter 30-something, I forget the number off the top of my head, but it's a cycle of Job replying, his friend talking, Job replying, his friend talking, Job replying. And we see that cycle go through the majority of the book of Job until God enters the scene and starts to talk. And so chapter 6 tonight, we see Job's reply. It says, but Job answered and said, oh, that my grief were thoroughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balances together. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are swallowed up. We see Job just talking about all the pain that he's going through, his grief and his calamity. If you put it on in the scales together, it would weigh more than all the sand of the sea. That's a lot of weight that he felt on his shoulders of all these problems going on. And he's just, again, the book of Job is a very poetic book. All the language there is very poetic. But we see that he's saying, I have so much pain and hurt upon me. It is more than anything you can imagine. Verse 4, therefore my words are swallowed up. I have nothing else to say. I don't know how to express how much pain I'm going through. I'm sure we can imagine being in a moment like that where we are at a loss for words of how bad we're feeling, how it hurts, and the things that we're going through. Verse 4, he says, for the arrows of the Almighty are within me. The poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. Job is looking at everything going on in his life, and he realizes this is the hand of God. Yes, God does allow these things. We know we have the background picture to know that Satan is doing these things, but it's still God who's giving the permission. These things are coming from God, and Job is saying, for some reason, God is set out against me. His arrows are in me, within me, it says, the poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. If we notice here in verse 4, he refers to God as the Almighty. Job has nothing but great respect for the position and the power of God. In chapter 3, we saw him talking about his problems and giving God still glory through those things. In chapter 1, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Job does not charge God foolishly in any of this. Now, he does complain. He does question, but not in a sinful way. Of course, if we were going through something that hurt us physically, we got to remember he lost his family, he lost his wealth, but he had these boils on his skin that were such great pain. I would be complaining too. And Job was doing these things in a way that was not blaming God for these things. In a sense, he was saying, I know that these things are happening to me and God is allowing them. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. He knows that these things are from God. He's just saying, I have so much pain, it would outweigh the sand of the sea, and I know that God is allowing these things. And this is, remember, the response to his one friend that is saying, hey, you must have sinned. Why are you complaining about this because you brought this on yourself? His next verse, verse 5, it says, doth the wild ass bray when he hath grass, or loweth the ox over his fodder? Does the donkey, the wild ass there, does it bray? Does it make a noise when it has a field full of grass and is able to eat? No, it just sits there and it eats. It's happy. It's content. Or does the ox low, does he make a noise over his fodder? No, he has the food there and he's content. He's happy. There's a reason why I'm complaining. There's a reason why I'm saying these things. If I knew why it was happening, I would keep my mouth shut. But there's a reason why I'm asking God these questions, is because I don't have an answer. The donkey in the field, he has what he wants. I don't have what I want. I want an answer from God. We see in verse 6, can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? We see just a picture of the flavorless food here. When we think of Eliphaz and his words that were said to him, there were, we talk about having things and seasoning them with salt as we're talking to somebody, and maybe having a little bit of correction seasoned with salt, so we give them the things that they need to hear and then be kind to them and build them up some and things like that. Well, Eliphaz had none of that. He said, hey, you're a sinner, you've done wrong, get right with God, confess them, you brought all this upon yourself. Job is saying, where is the good thing? I can't take all these things coming from you, all these, the blame that it's coming from you. All the trials I'm going through, where's the silver lining to it? Where's the good part? Verse 8, oh, that I might have a request, and that God would grant me the thing that I long for. Now he's asking God for something. He wants this one request. Look what it is. Even that it would please God to destroy me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. He says, I want God just to destroy me. Take me off this planet. I've had enough of this. I've gone through so much in these past few days, months. We don't know exactly how long he was here with his friends, how long it took his friends to come to him. But Job had been going through this some time. And he says, I wish God would just be done with me. Maybe you've been there yourself, or know people who have been at the end of the rope that we say. And this is how Job is feeling. He's seeing the depression coming in, all the horrible things he's looking at and seeing. He says, what's the point of me being alive anymore if this is how it's going to be? Verse 10, then should I yet have comfort? Yea, I would harden myself in sorrow, let him not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. He says, if God would take me off, I would then have comfort. I'd be done. I'd be over all this pain. I'd have comfort from these sores on my body. Let him not spare. He says, I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. I haven't gone against what God has said. I haven't gone contrary to his word. I haven't hidden anything from you and not letting you know what God has spoken to me about. Everything you see is out in the open. I don't know of anything. I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. Verse 11, what is my strength that I should hope? And what is mine end that I should prolong my life? What is my strength? What do I have to put my trust in? What is that hope that I have? Everything has been taken from him. What is my end that I should prolong my life? Hey, what am I even here for anymore? Everything's gone. Everything's ruined. What's the point of it? Might sound familiar to us dealing with some people or know people who've gone through questioning their lives like this. Hey, everything's going wrong. Why am I even here? And Job was going through that. It's a legitimate feeling that he was going through. Verse 12, is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? Hey, I'm not that strong. I don't have the strength of stones in me. I don't have the flesh of brass. I feel this pain. Is not my help in me, and his wisdom driven quite from me? We see that he knows that the help isn't coming from him. There's nothing in him that is going to bring about the strength and this help to get out of these problems himself. We see this pain that he's going through. He's basically burnt out of everything that he's experienced. It says the wisdom is driven out from him. The success on how to get or how to have success in this situation, he doesn't know how to handle these things himself. Then we see kind of switch gears here, and he's been talking about the pain that he's going through and how he's innocent. Has these questions for a reason, and now he turns to the friends, and he groups them all together, even though only one of them has spoken so far. And he starts to talk about their so-called help. To him that is afflicted in pity To him that is afflicted pity should be showed from his friend. Right. We see that person that has the afflictions in him. What would you expect a friend to bring? Pity. To see the help to come, to show, hey, I'm here for you, I'm with you in your pain. He was looking for pity from his friends. It says in verse 14, but he forsaketh the fear of the Almighty. That friend was not coming with that pity. He was forsaking the fear of the Almighty. My brethren have dealt deceitfully as a brook, and as the stream of brooks that they pass away, which are blackish by reason of the ice, and wherein the snow is hid. What time they wax warm, they vanish. When it is hot, they are consumed out of their place. The paths of their way are turned aside, they go to nothing and perish. The troops of Tema look, and the companies of Sheba waited for them. They were confounded because they had hoped. They came thither and were ashamed. For we see the example he gives of this water. In an arid place, the dry heat and everything, a river is a great thing. It's a source. These people, these troops coming, they're looking for them, they're waiting. They know that they could go and find a refuge from the heat there. It talks about them freezing over and then the snow coming, and then when the snow melts away, they completely go away. Their paths change course. They go away from where they should be. You can think of in a desert place, finding an oasis and knowing it's there, and then coming upon where you know it should be, and it's all dried up. What good is it? He says, my brethren, verse 15, have dealt deceitfully as a brook that's all dried up. It's gone away. It should be there for a place of nourishment, encouragement, refreshing, but instead you're like a dry riverbank in the heat of the day. What good are you doing here with me? We see verse 21, for now ye are nothing. Ye see my casting down and are afraid. It says, hey, you're seeing everything that's happening to me, and you're afraid. You're afraid that to give me hope, to give me anything. You're afraid that you're going to say the wrong thing. You're afraid that God is judging me, and if you don't try to stand and correct, that you're going to get judgment too. There's so many things that they could be afraid of in not giving the words of comfort. And how many times do we look at somebody and we don't want to get involved, we don't want to do something because we're afraid of the consequences of that. Verse 22, did I say, bring unto me, or give a reward for me of your substance? He says, I didn't ask for you to come and do anything. And we'll see those questions that he said. He says he didn't ask for. He says, verse 22, did I say, bring unto me, or give a reward for me of your substance, or deliver me from the enemy's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the mighty? He says, I didn't ask anything of you, and yet you're coming to me and blaming me. Verse 24, teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand wherein I have erred. If you have some wisdom, I'm willing to hear that. Show me where I've erred, but instead of you just questioning me and blaming me for something you don't know, I don't want to hear those things. Verse 25, how forcible are right words, but what doth your argue reprove? What does your arguing reprove? Right words, they're forcible. There's nothing I could say against right words. They have their place. But with your arguing, the things that you're saying to me, what is it reproving? I have no sin for you to reprove. Do you imagine to reprove words and the speeches of one that is desperate, which are as wind? Yes, or yea, ye overwhelm the fatherless, and ye dig a pit for your friend. So that's how helpful you are being. You're overwhelming the fatherless. You're digging a pit for your friend instead of helping him. Now, therefore, be content. Look upon me, for it is evident unto you if I lie. Return, I pray you. Let it not be iniquity. Yea, return again, my righteousness is in it. Is there iniquity in my tongue? Cannot my taste discern perverse things? We see that he's saying, I'm innocent. Look upon me, examine me, see if there's any evil in me. If there were evil, we see that it says, my taste discerning perverse things. He says, I wouldn't be able to tell if there's evil in my life. I would be able to sense that, but I'm not seeing anything. He says, there's no iniquity or injustice in my tongue. I haven't said anything evil. We go to chapter 7 for the second half of what he says, his response to Eliphaz there. We see that chapter 7 continues to talk kind of to them, but also talking to God more in a sense. It says, is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling? As a servant earnestly desireth the shadow, and as a hireling looketh for the reward of his work, so am I made to possess months of vanity, and wearisome nights are appointed to me. He looks at his life and says, there's an appointed time for man. There's only a set amount of time that we have. And his days are like a hireling looking for the reward of somebody who was hired to do a job, looking for that pay. It says he's looking for the shadow, a place to go and rest now, a place where he knows that the shadow is coming and that he can go rest, he can get paid for his well-done job, and then he could be done with that. It says, we know that we're looking for the end of our lives, for the reward for what we've done. It says, I've made to possess months for vanity, and wearisome nights are appointed to me. It says, that's what my reward is. I have the wearisome nights. Verse 4, when I lie down, I say, when shall I arise and the night be gone? And I am full of tossings to and fro unto the dawning of the day. It says, I lay down and I can't wait for the night to be over, because I can't sleep anyway. I'm tossing and turning, just wondering when it will be daylight so I can get up. I'm in so much pain. Verse 5, it says, my flesh is clothed with worms and clods of dust. My skin is broken and become loathsome. We know that he had those boils upon him, but we see how serious these things, the worms, the clouds of dust building in those, we think of the unsanitary things. I like going with the advice of the commentator Clark on this. He says the figure is too horrid to be further illustrated. So we'll just move on from there and not talk about that too much. We see that he was just in miserable condition. At night he's tossing to and fro. Verse 6, my days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle and are spent without hope. The weaver's shuttle, as they're weaving the piece of wood that they pass in between all the threads to make that next line, and how fast they can go, he says, my days are like that. They're like a blur before me. They're just going so fast. It says, yet they feel so long all at the same time. He says, they're spent without hope. They're blurred to me. They're just going so by. I don't have hope in any relief from this. Everything's gone. I can't get my children back. My substance, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no hope. A horrible condition to be in. Verse 7, oh, remember that my life is wind. My eyes shall no more see good. My life is like wind. It's just here and then it's gone. My eyes shall no more see good. He doesn't have any hope for any good thing to come for the rest of his life. Verse 8, the eye of him that hath seen me shall see me no more. Thine eyes are upon me, and I am not. As the cloud is consumed and vanisheth away, so he that goeth down to the grave shall come up no more. He shall return no more to his house, neither shall his place know him any more. So you see me now, soon I'm going to go away, I'm going to die, I'm going to be gone, you're not going to see me again. Verse 11, we see that has gotten to such a place where he has no hope. He's been in this place where at the beginning, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away, blessed be the name of the Lord. God has a plan for all of this. I'm trusting in God, and now it says, what's the point of this? I have no hope anymore. And God, go ahead and kill me. Just take my life from me. In verse 11 it says, therefore I will not refrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. That's where he has decided to be at this time. He's going to complain about the bitterness of his soul, and this is his attitude at this point. He says, I have nothing good, therefore I'm just going to complain about what's going on in my life. It says, I will not refrain my mouth. Sometimes it is a good thing to refrain your mouth, and maybe Job should have done that. We'll see God correcting him in quite a few chapters from now. But we do see just a man going through a lot of hard times, a lot of depression, a lot of hopelessness. That's a dangerous place to get ourselves into. Sometimes it happens by our own sins that we've done, but like Job, sometimes it's just something that happens that we have no control of. It doesn't matter how we lived up to this point, we're going through this. So we see the suffering of a saint here, somebody who trusted in God in the Old Testament. We know that Christians can go through hard times, not just because they sin, not just because they're doing something wrong, but sometimes it's just what God's plan is for us at that time. And we see that sometimes we might know somebody going through something hard. We know that it's hard to know what to say in those moments. Job's 3 friends didn't have the right words to say. Let's not be like them. But we could see from this, maybe you've never gone through something so horrible, but you can see the other side of it, what it feels like to go through in some of these words. We see his heart is in a place where he's just wondering, what is the point anymore? I have no hope. He then is talking to God. Verse 12 says, am I a sea or a whale that thou settest a watch over me? You can't control a sea. You can't control a whale. Am I one of these things that you're setting a watch over me? Or God can control those things, but man can't. Verse 13, when I say my bed shall comfort me, my couch shall ease my complaint. Whenever you're sick, you just think, oh, I want that place that's comfortable. I want to be in my bed or on the couch or that seat that I like so much. I'll be so much more comfortable there. But Job says, when I say my bed shall comfort me, verse 14, then thou scarest me with dreams and terrifiest me through visions. so that my soul chooses strangling and death rather than my life. When I think I can get a little bit of comfort here, I fall asleep, and that should be peace for me, but then you send me terrors. We might call them nightmares. And we see these visions in our dreams. And he says, because I can't even get peace in my time of sleep where I should have some comfort, I would rather be strangled. My soul chooses strangling and death rather than my life. I loathe it. Loathe means to have a deep hate for it. I loathe it. I would not live always. Let me alone, for my days are vanity. He says, my days are nothing. There's nothing left of my days. And he says, God, just leave me alone. When we get to a place where we're telling God, just leave us alone, we know you're in a dark place in your mind and in your heart. You're no longer seeing God as the Almighty, the one that's has everything in control, the one that all things work together for good, or no longer have our eyes on the hope. We've lost hope. And he says, Lord, just leave me alone. Let me be. That's a dark place for Job to be in. He says, I hate my life. I loathe it. I despise it. I will not live always. Don't want to have life anymore. Job 7:17, it says, what is man, that thou shouldest magnify him, and that thou shouldest set thine heart upon him, and that thou shouldest visit him every morning and try him every moment? Job is saying this, why are you so constantly on man? Why are you focused on me? I'm a nobody. Why are you having on this? Why do you care about me so much? Thou shouldest set thine heart upon him. Why are you focusing on me this way? And that thou shouldest visit him every morning and try him every moment. Why are you so focused on me? This verse, it's debated whether this came first or the psalm. The psalm here, Psalm 8. Turn there to Psalm 8. Psalm 8, verse 4, we see very similar words, exact same for some of it. It says, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou visitest him? Job says, what is man that thou shouldest magnify him, and thou shouldest let him? We see complete opposites in Job and in the psalm. The same question, what is man? But in the psalm, we see, if we read the whole psalm, it says, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth, who hast set thy glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained the strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightest still the enemy and the avenger. When I consider thy heavens and the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him? This is saying, we're so insignificant. Why would you even care about us? It says, verse 5, for thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passeth through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. We see two complete opposite sides of this coin here. Oh, what is man? In Psalm 8, why would you even consider us? And what a great privilege it is for you to love us. And Lord, your name is to be magnified. But when you lose that hope, you turn into Job 7, verse 17. What is man? Why are you being so hard on me? Why are you even caring about me? I'm nobody. Why are you doing all these horrible things to me? We see when we lose our hope, we lose a lot. Verse 19, how long wilt thou not depart from me, nor let me alone till I swallow down my spittle? I found that as an interesting phrase, till I swallow down my spittle. It's actually, looked it up, it's an Arabic idiom, One that means for one instant, like we would say for twinkling of an eye. That's another Bible phrase as well. It says, as quick as it is for me to swallow my spittle, that doesn't take long at all for most people. It says, won't you just leave me alone for that long so I can have a little bit of peace? Long enough for me just to swallow my spittle. How long wilt thou not depart from me, nor let me alone till I swallow down my spittle? Verse 20, I have sinned. What shall I do unto thee? O thou preserver of men, why hast thou set me as a mark against thee, so that I am a burden to myself? We see that Job is feeling that he's just the target of God at this point. Chapter 6, this whole speech started with Job talking in verse 4, for the arrows of the Almighty are within me, the poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. He says, God's arrows are on me. I am the mark for God. He is targeting me. It says in verse 21, and why dost thou not pardon my transgression and take away mine iniquity? For now shall I sleep in the dust, and thou shalt seek me in the morning, but I shall not be. He says, Lord, you've done so much against me. Haven't I already paid for my sins, any sins that I might have done? It says, I feel like I'm just going to sleep in the dust. I'm going to die. And when you come in the morning, I'm not going to be there because I'll be dead. That's Job's feelings at this point. Now, we understand Job has gone through quite a lot more than I can imagine going through. But we see the way that he handled it is a way that was not the best way. A way that can cause more pain and damage to him because he lost his hope in God. It says, I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. If we find ourselves edging towards that way, we need to stop and we need to look to God. Look for some answers from him and maybe surround ourselves with people that are going to help us and not hurt us. Job had some friends around, but they were hurting and bringing him further down. Job, in all of this, I'm not saying that he was necessarily sinning. He was somebody who's just going through a lot. And his eyes were starting to come off of God and his hope and the blessings that God could bring to just all looking inward and all the pain that he had. His eyes were no longer looking at the majesty and the glory of God, but he's looking at his sorrow and his pain and the complaints that he had. There is a time, too, that it's okay to complain some. I'm not saying don't ever complain, but when we start to be bitter against God, that's when the problems come. When we say that God is doing these things against me and I don't deserve it, I'm better than this, I haven't done anything, this is where Job is starting to get into the place of where he is going into a place of blaming God, accusing God of not being just or fair. As we continue on in the next chapters, we'll see Bildad come up and talk to Job, and then Job's reply, and we'll see more of Job's heart and where he is in this whole thing. And then, thankfully, we know the end, that God comes in, stops the friends from all their foolishness, and really gets Job and makes him to understand who he is. It makes Job really see the power of God. And when we get our eyes back on who God is, I think all things are going to come back, and we'll say, hey, there's a greater purpose. There's a greater reason. Yes, I might have some struggles down here on earth, but God is still in control. God can still work things out for his glory. And all things work together for good to them who love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. We know that sometimes life is hard. It's an honest thing. But how do we handle those times? We can't lose hope, or else we're going to be miserable like Job. I don't want that for anybody. I want us to look at the source of hope, and that is God. We'll close here. Next week, Lord willing, we'll be in chapter 8 at least, Bildad. talks, and 9 and 10 is Job's response to Bildad there. So we'll see how far we get. We'll close with a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this day. We thank you for your word. We pray that you'll help us to learn from this book of Job of your hand throughout all things in our life. I pray that you'll help us to see the anguish of this man and look at ways that we can maybe use it to comfort other people going through things. And Lord, if we find ourselves in a time of trouble, in a time of need, in a time of doubt, I pray that you'll help us to keep our hope on you. Lord, I pray that you'll help us to see you for who you are, high and lifted up, in control of all things, that we can just refresh our souls knowing that you have us in your hand. Pray that you'll be with us as we go our separate ways. Give us safety. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.